I'm sorry. That was acting. That's what that was. I don't really care what happens with this movie. I really hope her career is pretty much over. I'd be thrilled to see that. I can't imagine. I mean, Christian, you tell me.
Because Ellie still looks and acts like a 14-year-old from season 1, even though she's supposed to be 19.
The Last of Us Season 2 is out. Episode 4 is the latest, and it is bombing.
People hated The Last of Us Part 2. It was massively divisive.
The Last of Us was plagued by complaints of bad casting. And The Last of Us 2 is not faring much better.
The creator of the show is finally speaking out about its failure. The Last of Us creator Craig Mazin admits Season 2 was a failure.
Have you changed up your impression at all, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, the noise is the same. I've not got any more noises in my back pocket. The new infected are pretty terrifying. They're so smart, and they haven't really got a noise. That's the whole point of them, is they're silent and terrifying.
Ooh, give us a little silent and terrifying.
The whole thing is fucking insane. It's insane. It's the whole thing is nuts.
We just had to not like each other for a bit.
You had to not like me, which came easy.
So easy.
Like most people, I liked the first season. I thought they did a great job. Season 2, I was skeptical on them not recasting Ellie and keeping Bella Ramsey as Ellie because it's supposed to take place 5 years into the future, but obviously Bella Ramsey in real life was not going to age that much in, the 2 years it took between seasons. So in the show, Ellie still looks exactly the same, but is supposed to be 5 years older. Also, Ellie still acts exactly the same.
It was supposed to be a defining moment for Bella Ramsey, a moment that would silence the critics, unite the fan base, and solidify The Last of Us as one of the greatest video game franchises ever brought to life on screen. But instead, it's turned into a disaster that even Joel and Ellie couldn't survive. The Last of Us, Part 2's live-action adaptation, once hailed as HBO and Sony's golden ticket, is now being dragged through the mud after a brutal box office flop that has left Hollywood stunned, and Bella Ramsey at the center of an internet firestorm. Now, whispers of The Last of Us, Part 3 being scrapped altogether are swirling, and fans everywhere are asking the same question. Is this truly the end of the road for one of gaming's most beloved and controversial stories? So, before we dive into the real madness, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. The real bombshells are just getting started.
For some reason, they made the decision for The Last of Us Season 2 to make Ellie dumb, to the point where she even says that she's stupid. Why? That just kind of betrays the character.
The Last of Us was plagued by complaints of bad casting. And The Last of Us 2 is not faring much better.
The finale drew over 50% less than the finale of Season 1. You lost half of your audience.
Have you changed up your impression at all, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, the noise is the same. I've not got any more noises in my back pocket. The new infected are pretty terrifying. They're so smart, and they haven't really got a noise. That's the whole point of them, is they're silent and terrifying.
Ooh, give us a little silent and terrifying.
There was never a doubt that expectations were sky high. After HBO's runaway success with the first season of The Last of Us, the decision to fast-track a live-action film based on the second game seemed like a no-brainer. The cast was stacked, the marketing promised a raw, emotional experience, and the budget? Reports say it soared well past $200 million, a staggering figure for a video game adaptation. Fans, critics, even industry veterans were convinced this was going to be the moment The Last of Us shattered the so-called video game curse in Hollywood. But when the opening weekend numbers rolled in, reality hit like a sledgehammer. Instead of dominating the charts, the film struggled to break even a fraction of projections. And just like that, what was meant to be a blockbuster became one of the year's biggest box office embarrassments. It didn't take long for the internet to sink its teeth in. Social media exploded with damning photos of half-empty screenings, entire rows untouched in theaters that were supposed to be packed with die-hard fans. Cinemas that had sold out seats for the HBO series premiere sat eerily quiet, and the message was clear. People were staying home. It wasn't just a bad opening weekend, it was a public humiliation. Adding insult to injury, reports surfaced that Bella Ramsey herself attended a screening, only to be met with the awkward reality of a nearly empty theater. No cheering fans, no standing ovations, just silence, scattered claps, and a sea of empty seats. a brutal contrast to the red carpets and standing ovations she might have envisioned just months earlier. But the empty seats were just the beginning. Almost overnight, the online narrative shifted from disappointment to full-blown outrage, and Bella Ramsey found herself squarely in the crosshairs. The same fans who once celebrated her breakout performance as Ellie in the HBO series were now calling her the face of the franchise's downfall. Old interviews resurfaced. Snippets where Bella questioned certain parts of the game's original storyline, where she hinted at fixing what she saw as flaws in the narrative. Those comments, once shrugged off, suddenly became ammunition for angry fans. Some accused her of disrespecting the legacy of the game. Others claimed her bold takes alienated the very fan base that built The Last of Us into a global phenomenon. And this time, there was no Pedro Pascal by her side to shield her from the storm. It all started with a few words that, at the time, might have seemed harmless. But when you're carrying the weight of an entire franchise on your shoulders, even the smallest remarks can turn into wildfire. During a press junket before the movie's release, Bella Ramsey casually admitted that some parts of The Last of Us 2's original storyline didn't sit right with her. She spoke about Ellie's journey, hinting that the live-action version would take the character in what she called a more mature, complex, and evolved direction. To Bella, it was about growth, but to millions of die-hard fans, it sounded like rewriting history. Almost instantly, the internet lit up. Critics accused her of undermining the source material. Memes flooded X and TikTok, sarcastically dubbing the film The Last of Us 2, the woke remake. Fan pages that once proudly shared her interviews were now filled with calls to boycott the film. And in a world where nostalgia runs deep and gaming loyalty runs even deeper, Bella's words hit like a slap in the face. As the controversy escalated, it wasn't just angry fans chiming in. Industry insiders, podcasters, and even some of Bella's own colleagues began whispering that the project had been doomed from the start, not because of the source material, but because of what they called studio arrogance. Popular YouTube pundits roasted the film's ballooning budget, calling it a tone-deaf gamble by HBO and Sony. Even respected voices in the industry, people who had praised the HBO series, were now questioning how such a massive project could spiral so far out of control. But perhaps the most brutal blow came from within the Hollywood bubble itself. During a now viral podcast episode, a well-known casting director, without naming names, blamed the entire fiasco on a young, unprepared lead and executives who refused to listen to the fans. The message was clear. Whether fair or not, all eyes were on Bella Ramsey. But the most shocking twist was yet to come. As box office numbers cratered and backlash reached a boiling point, new rumors began to surface. Rumors that sent shockwaves through both Hollywood and the gaming world. Multiple insiders, some with a proven track record of leaks, claimed that plans for The Last of Us Part 3, once considered inevitable, had been quietly shelved. Development reportedly paused indefinitely. Sony, HBO, and Naughty Dog were said to be in emergency damage control mode, reassessing whether the franchise had any future at all on screen. And the timing couldn't be worse. With industry confidence shattered and fan trust hanging by a thread, whispers grew louder. Could the Last of Us franchise, once considered untouchable, be dead in the water? And at the center of it all, Bella Ramsey. Angry, isolated, and now carrying the weight of a $200 million failure. In every Hollywood disaster, there's always a scapegoat. And for The Last of Us 2's box office bomb, that scapegoat has a name: Bella Ramsey. Social media wasted no time sharpening its knives. The memes, the takedown videos, the brutal fan edits, they've all painted Bella as the villain of this story. The narrative spreading online that she single-handedly destroyed one of gaming's most beloved franchises. But here's the thing. The truth, like always, is far messier than the headlines. Sure, Bella's outspoken nature rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Her interviews, her social media posts, her unfiltered takes on Ellie's character. All of that added fuel to the fire, but was she really the one who pulled the trigger on this PR nightmare? Or was she just another piece in a much bigger, much more complicated puzzle? Industry insiders say the warning signs were there long before Bella ever stepped in front of a camera, the moment HBO and Sony decided to modernize The Last of Us, to tweak the story, soften the edges, or, depending on who you ask, strip away what made the original special. That's when the real cracks began to show. Game director Neil Druckmann has been praised as a visionary by some and slammed as a provocateur by others. His creative choices for Part 2 already divided the fanbase back when the game dropped. So when those same controversial elements made their way into the live-action adaptation, along with even more bold changes, it was only a matter of time before the backlash erupted. And yet, in the eyes of millions, Bella Ramsey became the face of that controversy, a young actress caught in the crossfire of studio politics, fan expectations, and the relentless machine that is online outrage culture. Is it fair? Probably not. But Hollywood has never been fair. And right now, Bella is learning that lesson the hard way. But this isn't just about Bella Ramsey's reputation, or even the fate of a single movie. The Last of Us was never just a game. It became a cultural phenomenon, a story that pushed boundaries, sparked endless debates, and redefined what interactive storytelling could be. But success on that level, it comes with a price. The cracks started showing with The Last of Us Part 2's release. The leaks, the backlash, the polarizing character arcs, it all left the fanbase fractured. Some called it a masterpiece, others a betrayal. But despite the controversy, the franchise soldiered on, buoyed by critical acclaim and a fiercely loyal core audience. Until now. The box office failure of the live-action film isn't just a financial hit, it's a devastating blow to the brand's credibility. Insiders at Naughty Dog are reportedly rethinking everything. Sony executives, once bullish about The Last of Us dominating both the gaming and cinematic worlds, are suddenly quiet. And those whispers, they're getting louder. Multiple sources claim that development on The Last of Us Part 3 has been quietly shelved. Officially, they'll say it's a pause for creative reflection. Unofficially, it's panic mode. Studio heads terrified of pouring hundreds of millions into a project that could face the same brutal fan rejection. And with HBO's future seasons now clouded in uncertainty, the dominoes are starting to fall. Merchandise sales slowing, licensing deals being reconsidered. Even upcoming spin-off projects reportedly in jeopardy. The franchise that once felt unstoppable now feels like it's teetering on the edge. So, where does this leave Bella Ramsey? The young star who once seemed poised to carry The Last of Us legacy into a bold new era now finds herself at the center of one of the biggest entertainment scandals of the year. But make no mistake, the stakes here go far beyond one actress. This is about a franchise in freefall, a studio struggling to balance creativity and fan loyalty, and an industry once again learning the hard way that when you gamble with beloved stories, the fallout can be catastrophic. The Last of Us was supposed to be different, untouchable, bulletproof. But after a brutal box office failure, fan revolts, and whispers of canceled projects, the dream is crumbling. Maybe Bella Ramsey made mistakes. Maybe the studios got greedy. Or maybe this was the inevitable end of a franchise that was already running on borrowed time. One thing is certain, the world is watching. Fans, critics, executives, they're all waiting to see what happens next. And as for The Last of Us Part 3, well, don't hold your breath. Because if this disaster proves anything, it's that even the biggest, most beloved stories can fall apart in the end.